Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Common Ground Conversations with the esteemed JoNeil Conley. And
Hmm.
I'm Bonnie Nussbaum. And we've been chatting for quite some time now, over a year, about things that make us go, hmm. And so we're both in a place of oi right now and thought we would share some hopefully useful information on dealing with it when you're up to your eyeballs and sinking fast.
I always say up to your eyeballs in alligators, kind of a thing. And I think Bonnie and I both, our lives have been lifing
With a
and
vengeance, with a vengeance.
with a vengeance. And a lot of this stuff, sometimes one thing you can do and then it adds another. And then by the time it's like, not yet, God, haven't I figured that? So
Yes.
we call out to the deities and we do all that, those sort of things. And the point being is that, I do believe that we have an energy pie. We get this much. And if it's all eaten up, you got just a little itty bitty left over.
And for women in particular, we're really good at, we were just lamenting, we have a friend who's having a health issue and how she's just kind of sucking it up
Oh,
and taking it on and dealing. And we're both like, girl, you got to start complaining a little bit and get your
yeah.
needs met here.
Well, and I do think that is when you're put in a situation of not being comfortable, the authority figures,
Mhm.
the doctor,
Yeah,
and
not
now
familiar with medical terminology. Yeah.
all the things. And I always say I could walk into any hospital in the world and they didn't think I worked there because I'm comfortable with it.
Hmm.
But I'll flip that. When I was going through my divorce, the legal system was frightening. And
Hmm.
I was at their
Hmm.
mercy. Oh, you
Hmm.
needed this. It's another $1,000. You needed this, another thousand. Like, okay, get them because I couldn't discern. I did not
No,
have the ability to discern, and I think
no.
that's
I think many of us also feel that way when we take our car into the shop.
oh
It's like, well, you
God.
need this and you need this and you need this. And if you don't have a little bit of knowledge, you can
Hmm.
get taken to the cleaners. Took it to the dealership. They wanted to replace the entire
Yeah.
exhaust system.
Yeah,
I knew
for
all I needed was one chunk of pipe. So I
yeah.
went to Midas, thank you, Midas, and it was 75 bucks.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of times we can just discuss this issue that we're having with this friend. Sometimes you need a mama bear. Sometimes you
Hmm.
do need,
Hmm.
if you are physically drained, physically ill or
You can't advocate for
oh,
yourself
you, you,
effectively then.
you
You
can't
need
advocate.
people to do it for you.
You need people to do it. So I earlier, about a half an hour ago, finished a class that I'm taking on the drama triangle and the empowerment triangle. And I figured we're tired. Let's just pull something out that I've been studying.
This will be useful information.
This will
Yes.
be useful, and we will put a better picture of this in the show notes. But there was a fellow, Stephen Karpman, in the 1970s, created what he called the dreaded drama triangle. And it's not three people in the room; it's you.
Mhm.
When the drama happens, we have automatic stress response roles that we take
Mhm.
on. And I want to make sure I say those words carefully. It's not who you are. It's a role you jump into when
It's how you've learned to cope.
it's how
Yeah.
you've learned to
And
cope,
we're going to put cope in
coping
what?
there.
Yeah.
So the parts of the drama triangle, and again, you can't really see this really carefully, but there's three parts. There's the victim, there's the rescuer, and there's the persecutor. And there are some characteristics of all. But the one I'm personally most familiar with is the rescuer. And we've talked, Bonnie and I have talked about, she's coached me through my recovery, my recovering rescuing. But it's sort of like need to be needed. I'm under stress. I need to rescue. I need to fix. And I had the poor child that got the worst of it was my daughter because I needed to rescue her because I had guilt. She was came from a quote unquote broken family and her dad and all these things. And so I had to make it wonderful for her and not have problems and issues. Kumbaya, my lord. And I thought
Yep.
that was my role as her mom and guilt presence and all of that. And yeah, the biggest enlightenment moment came when we were having conversations and I was in the class and I came to this realization that me rescuing her stole her of the opportunity to grow. to
Yes.
learn, to
Yes.
become something different, because I was so, that was my stress response. I was going to do that.
Yes.
And
Well,
so,
and one of the things that we know is when people have had a really hard time, they often try to make it much easier for their offspring,
oh,
thereby
yes.
weakening their offspring, who
Yeah.
then don't do a great job of parenting the next generation. So they have a rough time, and then they want the next, and it goes around and
Yeah,
around and around.
it does. It does.
Hmm.
And having an understanding that you can get out of the drama triangle. Like I said, we will put some other research and some links to some stuff, because this is just a light
We're
touch of
dabbling. Yes, we're dabbling.
this. But there was another author. His name was David Emerald, and he wrote a book called The Empowerment Triangle. These are both really. We'll link both of these books there. Um, and David's belief was, with awareness and thought
And
and
practice.
tools and
Hmm.
practice, you could move from the drama triangle to the empowerment triangle. And so these are the two authors, Cartman and Emerald. And it wasn't anything that was going to happen by itself. You had to really be conscious, be aware, be thoughtful,
Be willing to
but
practice.
be
Yep.
willing to practice, seek out help. Bonnie and I
Yep.
are both coaches, and that's part of what we do, is help people get from here to there.
Hmm.
We don't get you there, we help you get there.
Right.
We'll walk
It's your
along,
trip. It's your
we'll walk
trip.
alongside of you. But the empowerment triangle says, if you're a victim, you can become a challenger. You can challenge. No, I'm sorry, that's wrong. The persecutor becomes a challenger. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, I was a little bit confused there. The rescuer becomes a coach, and the victim becomes the creator. So there are other roles that we can grow into, that we don't have to stop. And I think once you dig into this a little bit deeper, you may see some of these dynamics. And we don't want you diagnosing anybody else, because this is only for you. This
Right.
is not for
Clean in
you.
front
Oh
of
my
your
God,
own
look,
front door.
they're
Yep.
they're the victim over there. This isn't what this is about.
No.
But I wanted to be able to give you was a tool, perhaps, for you to see. And I can just speak for myself. Going Becoming a recovering rescuer has been the best thing that ever happened to me.
So describe a little bit the empowerment, the what is each of those three like? I mean, most of us, I think, know what it's like to be the victim, what it's like to be the one. I'll tell you how you ought to fix this, or the yeah.
Sure,
But what
sure.
about
So the rescuer becomes the coach, and I just kind of alluded to that a little bit, where the coach doesn't go in and do it for you. That would be the rescuer. The coach is somebody who says, have you thought about? Do you
right,
know? Or just sits with you
and listens?
and
Yes,
listens and listens. And part of what coaching, and Bonnie, you can jump in here too with your philosophy. Part my philosophy of coaching is, you probably already know the answer. I'm not just going to spill
yes.
it out to you.
Yes. And if we spill it out to you, it again, it robs you of your sovereignty. You can do this. It's we hold the belief that you can do this until you can hold that belief yourself.
Bingo, bingo, well said. And so the persecutor is the one. Well, what are we doing this for? And how come you're doing that?
I
And
told you that wasn't going to work.
back in my day, we walked to school after we milked the cows.
And what were you thinking? If you had, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So a softer version of that is challenger, saying, "Have you thought about? Do you think maybe?" The one I kind of like to use at times is, "I've seen it done," and offer that as a perhaps. So we're not challenging. I mean, we're not persecuting you. We're not making you bad. We're
right.
trying to give you other options.
Well, and the other thing I would say about the challenger one is pay attention to the nonverbals that you're getting back.
Yeah,
It may not be welcome. It may not be welcome. Don't don't crash the party. If they're
yeah,
not ready yet, you can plant a seed or two and see what happens, but then
yeah,
back off.
yeah,
A week later they may come out and say, I was thinking about that thing you said and tell me more about that. But
yeah.
give them the space and the time. If they're not ready to hear it,
Yeah, and none of these are. I think they do wash over a little bit into each other. They aren't this black and white kind of, which
right.
in all of our coaching practices, there's a lot of the flow back and
Right.
forth.
But we
But
tend to have our defaults.
correct, Correct. Our
Yeah.
primary. Like my
Yeah.
primary is the rescuer over here. So then again, the victim can become a creator. You can
So what
think
would
of
that look
new,
like?
you can think of, well, you can think of new ways. Like, what haven't we tried? What might we try? And don't just wallow in the nothing, this is bad, awful, terrible, god awful day sort of a thing.
Never going to
That's
get better. I'm going to
never
eat
gonna go.
dirt. Yeah.
Yeah. Where the creator says, okay, we're not gonna deny these things have happened, but we're gonna say, is there something we haven't thought about before?
Right.
What might we do?
Yes. And also don't deny how you're feeling about it. I'm just wanting to cross my arms and
Yeah.
pout, but I also know that doesn't get me where I want to go. So I'm going to take a bath. I'm going to make some tea. I'm going to get some good sleep, and then I'll come back to take a look at this.
Yeah. Yeah. And all of this too goes along with what we've talked about too with our nervous system, how our nervous system gets riled up and all the things. And I was asked today in this class, JoNeil, do you want to present next week? And I literally said to the person, I would, but I don't have the capacity to prepare for it. And that was me becoming my own sovereign yes, like
Absolutely.
you give me a
Excellent.
microphone, I'm a happy camper, but I know what's going on in my life right now. I know, and being called out in a class, now the rescuer would go, oh sure, I'd be glad to present next week.
In
And
triplicate, I'll mail it all to you ahead of time.
yes, and I'll have a PowerPoint with music and slides and all of that.
Mm.
And I said,
Yep.
no, I would love to, but I just don't have the capacity, which is a great line. I don't know if anybody else uses it, but that's my latest.
It's a
And
beautiful. Yeah.
I
Beautiful.
think it goes back to what we were talking about as we opened this session that neither of us have a lot of capacity right now.
Nope. And when you honor that, what
Yeah.
happens then is you can actually begin to move through whatever it is
Yeah.
as opposed to getting stuck and spinning your wheels and burning your energy and depleting your resources and ending up sick or hurt or not well.
And saying no is okay.
Hmm. And you don't
Yeah.
even have to offer any excuses. No,
No.
no, thank you.
Yeah.
No, not
Oh,
this time.
yeah.
No.
Well, I also had two friends write to me or send me a text, or a friend text me a text about going to something in Pennsylvania in April. And I went, I don't have the capacity right now for travel. However, as it approaches, there may be an opportunity. But right now, I'm not committing to nothing.
Hmm. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah. So how's this tie into common ground conversations?
Well, I think one way it does is by knowing your own way of reacting.
Hmm.
And it's not terrible to look at other people and go, oh, she's stuck in victim or he's stuck in,
Yeah.
you know, because it can give you some distance from what's going on. Because I'll give you, when someone is the rescuer,
Uh,
sometimes they're so far up your butt, you're just like, will you back off?
yeah.
Give me some
Yeah.
space here. I can't even breathe. You're smothering me.
Yeah.
So, but if you know, well, she must be pretty uncomfortable because she's really popping into her rescuer. I'm just gonna
Hmm.
give her a little space and
Hmm.
not
Because I
take
did,
on what she's offering. Because, yeah,
because one of the things I did say in the very beginning, these are roles we jump into when we're stressed. And I think
yes,
that's the piece I think to um have some thought around. We don't
yes,
always run, I don't run around rescuing every dead cat on the side of the road or whatever. But under stress and in a situation that I feel like threatened, or I should do this, or my motherhood was challenged, so I have to rescue my child. So there are all of these complex cascades going on
yes,
inside of us.
yes. And if we can, again, one of the things that I think is so helpful is if we can just take the step back. Imagine that you're floating up on the ceiling, looking down on all this, and able to see the dynamics of what's going on because you're going to be far kinder to yourself
Yeah.
and to whoever else is involved in this conversation when
Hmm.
you have some distance.
Yeah. And I do think what we've talked about in all of the common ground conversations are patterns that we see.
Hmm.
Poor Uncle Arthur, we've talked about him till poor guy, he can't, but that's a pattern. And I think looking for pattern interrupts. looking for some of
Yes.
those things that are different. Like if you always see Uncle Albert as somebody who's going to be obnoxious and all this, then you're always going to see Uncle Albert as that. But interrupt the
And you're
pattern.
going to be on guard for that, which then can provoke it.
Yeah.
So we want to love people where they're at.
Yeah.
Love people where they're at. It may not be where you'd like them to be, but you may not be where they would like you to be either. So,
Oh, isn't that just the truth? Isn't
uh-huh.
that just the truth? And we live in a world with other, or for most of us do, with other people.
Hmm.
And so our mission in having this video chat with you is just to give you a little bit of information or thought process or strategies or techniques that make the journey a little bit easier, a little bit
Yeah, a little
softer.
smoother. Yep. Yeah. And I think you will also find, I think you probably agree with me, that when we change our perceptions about what's going on, it
Yeah.
opens the field for change to occur across the board. When we
Yeah.
stop acting the way we've been acting, it's going to influence the whole dynamic, the whole
Oh,
pattern.
yeah. It's that drop in a pond. that
Yes.
that
And
that
this is who we can manage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, today I was telling Bonnie before we jumped on here, I was up in the wee hours of the night going, what can I control? What can I control? And there's a whole bunch I can't. And I use the word control, but I mean things that are within my sphere of influence, but
Hmm.
there's a bunch of things I can. So focus on
Right.
those.
Right.
The other things are they're gonna play out.
Right.
And some of it directly affects me, sometimes indirectly affects me. But
And how
me
do you even know that there isn't a much bigger unfolding going on here that will be 10 times better than what you would have dreamed up in the first place?
Yeah. And that was the message Bonnie told me right before we turned this on.
Yep.
Because I said to her, it goes, well, what if it doesn't turn out?
And
And
I said, well, what if it
well, what if it
doesn't?
does? Yeah.
Then you'll proceed in some other way, another path will unfold. And
Yeah.
by golly, my guess is it's going to be a great path. To the person, every person over the course of my whole coaching, counseling career, 40 plus years, who ended up with something horrible, like I got fired today, I got downsized, I had a car accident, whatever, whatever,
Hmm.
whatever. A year later, they were in a better spot.
Sure.
Something
Sure.
needed to jar loose there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, you know, yesterday you had your unity where you were talking about sending out vibrations to the world. And I think we're
Hmm.
all in that place where we don't know. We're in this
No,
spot of this, all of this stuff, but sending that out, being
yeah,
that light, being that,
yes. Send the energy. Send if you're standing in line behind someone who is just ranting and raving, just put your hands out, send them some loving
yeah,
energy, get on with your day.
yeah, yeah, and try not to absorb it.
Yeah,
I have to consciously put up my force field at times because
yes.
there's stuff that,
Well, because we're so tuned in, we unwittingly pick up and the way I say it to myself is I don't want anybody icking on my wow. So I need to be aware of what's going on around me. Because if someone's energy is very low vibration, it's easy to get sucked down there with them
oh,
if you don't put up
and
the boundaries.
and again, not having those bound. If you're not conscious of it, I mean, when I in my career when I was a nursing director, I could walk onto a nursing unit. Lord have mercy,
You'll feel it.
I could of the chaos, the stuff. It was almost like I had to go take a bath before I could come back, kind of a thing, you know.
Yep. My
And,
friend
and
Diane calls that washing off the day. You got to
she's
wash
right.
off the day.
She's absolutely right. She's absolutely right. Well, we thank you for being with us in our
Yes.
day that we wanted to share you some information. We both were struggling. I don't know what struggle is a word, but we both were
Meh.
had,
Yeah.
having, and usually
Those days.
we don't usually have it at the same time.
No, and it's much nicer when we don't have it at the same time.
Yeah.
Although we're doing a great job, I think, of supporting each other anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So subscribe to our channel, share this with some friends because we've been doing this and it's our labor of love. We don't have any
Yes. And if
extra,
you have questions, put some questions.
yeah.
We'll answer those questions.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
if you felt called to either one of us, we both have really interesting coaching practices and styles. Our information will be in the show notes and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So Have an awesome day.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody.